guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 7 British gadgets and gizmos I have never used as an American. I think there's probably a lot of things that there are common in British households that are probably not that known in the United States. So I'm very curious. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Hi and welcome back to the Girl Gone Legend channel. Today we're talking about 7 tools and gadgets I hadn't used before moving to the UK. Now first on my list is the electric kettle. I know, before you roll your eyes and say Americans have electric kettles too, let me stop you right there. No, we don't. Not really. What Americans call an electric kettle is usually a sad, underpowered device that takes approximately 17 minutes to boil a cup of water. British electric kettles are different, also thanks to the voltage in the UK being higher than in the USA. They're fast, they're efficient, and they're absolutely essential to daily life. The first time I watched my flatmate make tea, I was genuinely...
I'm sorry, but what do you mean the voltage is higher? So it means you have more power there? What? Things warm up faster?
Impressed. She filled the kettle, pressed a button, and within like 90 seconds, she had rolling, bubbling water. In America, I would have had to put a pot on the stove, waited 5 minutes for it to heat up, then waited another 5 minutes for the water to boil, all while using enough energy to power a small village. But here's what really blew my mind. British people use their kettles for everything. Making tea, obviously, but also cooking pasta is faster by pre-boiling the water, warming up water for washing dishes, sterilizing baby bottles. I once watched a British person use their kettle to reheat leftover soup. Now, the reason British kettles are so superior...
Maybe I don't know, I don't think I could put the soup in the electric kettle that I'm using for boiling water and pre-boiling water before pasta? What?
It comes down to the electrical infrastructure. British homes run on around 240 volts compared to America's 120 volts. This means British appliances can draw more power and work faster. A British kettle can pull 3,000 watts of power. An American kettle maxes out at around 1,500 watts. It's basic physics. More power equals faster boiling. Living without a proper electric kettle now feels like living in the Stone Age. When I visit America, I find myself frustrated by the inefficiency. Why are we still boiling water like it's 1850? Why haven't we adopted this obviously superior technology?
Great point, yeah.
I mean, I know why, I just told you it's because of the voltage.
Next
up is the washing up bowl. I'm gonna call it a gadget. It's a bowl, but it's kind of also a gadget, and none of them causes more existential crisis in me than a washing up bowl. It's essentially a sink inside of a sink. A sink inside of a perfectly good, functional sink. A small plastic bowl sitting there like
for washing
a parasite. My first encounter with washing up bowls was also at the same flat where my flatmate was boiling tea. It was the first time I'd lived in the UK, and I was confused by what was going on. She was obsessed with using the washing up bowl, and I was just like, but the sink already exists. Now, the theory is that you fill the bowl with hot and soapy water, you wash your dishes in the bowl, then you rinse them under the tap. This uses less water than filling the entire sink. It also means you can easily empty and refill the bowl without having to clean the sink first. Plus, if you have a double sink, you can use one side for washing with the bowl and the other side for rinsing. But Americans don't really think this way. We have garbage disposals and dishwashers and a cultural belief that more water equals cleaner dishes. And also, I don't understand washing up bowls because they also seem to get very, very dirty water very quickly that I'm then washing the dishes in. It feels like an extra step. Even after years of living in the UK, I have not been converted. Now, next on my list of gadgets I hadn't used before moving to the UK is the radiator key. In America, when your heating isn't working, you have to call a professional. In Britain, you grab your radiator key and become the professional. This tiny,
I'm pretty scared of doing this.
hollow metal key, which looks like it belongs in a medieval torture chamber, is an essential homeowner's tool. I discovered radiator keys during my first British winter when half the radiators in the flat decided to stop working. I called my landlord expecting him to tell me what to do, and he pointed me to the radiator key, and I said, "What's a radiator key?" And he said, "For bleeding the radiators." I'm sorry. What, we need to bleed the radiators? That sounds either very medical or very violent, and I'm not qualified for either. As it turns out, British radiators develop air bubbles that prevent hot water from circulating properly. The solution is known as bleeding, using the radiator key to open a small valve at the top of the radiator, letting the air escape until hot water starts flowing again.
What if steam comes out?
It's a simple process that takes around 30 seconds per radiator, and it can instantly fix your heating problems. Next on my list is a tea cozy.
Still, I think I'd be pretty scared of the thing blowing up in my face.
These knitted or fabric covers that slip over teapots to keep them warm are peak British.
That's so
like
cute.
Little hats for teapots, complete with patterns and colors and maybe sometimes decorative elements like animals or flowers. And tea cozies actually work, I kid you not. They work pretty well. A proper tea cozy can keep a pot of tea hot for hours. The insulation is remarkable. The tea stays at drinking temperature far longer than it would in an exposed pot. And this is crucial when you understand British tea culture. Tea isn't just like a single beverage. You make a pot, not always just a cup. You sit down and have multiple cups from the same pot and expect each cup to be properly hot. In America, we don't really do teapots as much. We make coffee in pots, but tea gets the individual bag treatment. Heat up some water, dunk a bag, drink immediately.
In the microwave.
idea of making a pot of tea is a little bit more foreign to us. We're more of a heat it up when you need it kind of culture. The variety of tea cozies is incredible. Modern ones come in every design, from elegant quilted fabrics to novelty designs. There are seasonal tea cozies, designer tea cozies, and vintage tea cozies passed down through generations. Now, the next thing on my list is also tea related, and it's called a caddy spoon. They're specialized spoons designed specifically for measuring tea leaves from a tea caddy, which in itself is a British concept I'd never encountered. These aren't regular teaspoons made small. They're purposely designed with wide, shallow bowls, perfect for scooping loose tea without crushing delicate leaves.
Perfect measurement.
The short handle also makes them perfect for reaching into tea caddies without your fingers touching the leaves. Traditional caddy spoons are often made from silver, bone, or mother of pearl. Many are miniature works of art with decorative handles shaped like shells, leaves, or other natural motifs.
So I could just get someone, like someone's getting married, I should buy a fancy teaspoon?
Victorian era caddy spoons are particularly elaborate, reflecting the importance of tea in 19th century British society.
Wow,
now, the next thing on my list is a toast rack. Let me tell you about toast racks. These are metal stands designed to hold pieces of toast upright so they stay crispy instead of getting soggy from trapped steam. Before moving to Britain, I honestly had never seen these. In America, toast either was on my plate or it was on a toaster straight into my mouth. But then I experienced proper British breakfast at a bed and breakfast in the Cotswolds, and the host brings out this metal rack holding perfectly aligned pieces of toast. The toast was still warm, but also had a crispy exterior, and that's what I learned about the beauty of the toast rack. It's brilliant, obvious, and both seems completely unnecessary and completely necessary once you notice the difference.
Yes, this looks like something that's going to change your life once you actually try it.
British toast racks come in various materials and styles. Traditional ones are silver-plated metal with wire frames, but modern versions also use stainless steel or wood. Some are even adjustable to accommodate different toast thickness. The really fancy ones have integrated butter dishes or jam holders. Now this brings me to the end of my list. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.
The other fun British gadget. What on earth is that? Is that some sort of spoon? Is that for, that's for drying clothes, right? Oh, that's for the egg, right? For a boiled egg? I have no idea the name, but an egg holder? Oh my. Yeah, this, I have to admit, I hadn't, well, obviously I've heard, electric kettle and stuff. The ones that I never heard of were the toast rack. I don't think I've ever seen it. If I saw that, I would think it's maybe a napkin holder, just because, again, it has the little sort of racks. But I have no idea how this works. She's telling me, it keeps the toast warm, but how exactly does it do that? I think it's just gonna get cold. I think my logic is, like she mentioned, of course, you're toasting your bread, your piece of toast, and you're either, you have to get it warm. So, otherwise it gets cold, it gets soggy, it looks bad, it tastes, well, it's not about the taste, it's not about the texture obviously the bread itself is going to taste exactly the same, but it's a textural thing. But again, why should you have, I guess my idea or I mean, I like it. Yeah, sure. I want one now. But I don't know how useful it is. I have no idea because usually, again, you're grabbing your toast, you're spreading whatever you said you're spreading, and then you're eating it, but you're eating it right away, right? Why would I wait? I'm not waiting, I'm eating, right? So why do I need a toast rack? Unless maybe there's a lot of people, maybe I'm trying to think of like one event or one situation in which you would need this. Maybe in big families, and then you have your toaster, and then you're going, for 6 pieces of bread. So then you have to sort of, first, the first rack's ready. I have 6 pieces of toast, but then because there's more people, then I have to keep moving along. Oh, I guess, or maybe not. We just put it on a table, and then people just sort of grab as they want to. You grab 1 or 2 pieces just as you want. Then that's more of a brunch thing, I would assume, not for an everyday thing, because again, I'm eating it. I'm not waiting. Why should I wait? I'm eating it. I have to go. So I do not know how useful it is, but again, I kind of want one. I don't know why, but I like the idea of having, your piece of toast, and also there's one that have jam and butter holders. Oh my god, I want to see one of those. I want one, absolutely. The other that I am a little confused is the washing. Was it the washing up bowl? I mean, I do not really understand. Sometimes I think there's several ways of washing your dishes. It depends on if you have a dishwasher. It depends on preference. It depends on what you're washing. Sometimes it's just better just sort of, go along and you just scrub daddy or you scrub mommy and you go to town with it. Sometimes no, you have to really soak up, the dishes, but still you kind of do it on the sink, right? You're doing that. Although again, sometimes I don't know how practical it is. Again, it just depends on the situation, depends on your preference. It depends on how many plates you have to wash. Because I think if you're washing only, again, you're having breakfast and you're kind of, I'm washing up my dishes. I'm not gonna do the wash up bowl. I only have, if it's just one person, you only have one, a cup, and for tea or coffee, a plate, and a fork and a knife, or maybe a spoon. Maybe you have a bowl, you had oatmeal. I don't know. It's just, or a couple of knives. It's just, I'm not gonna use a wash up bowl. I'm not gonna fill up my sink with water just because I had a piece of toast on my bread. I mean, no, the plate's not that dirty. Maybe you should scrub it. I don't know. I think it's just it's just I think, a controversial thing. How do you do your dishes? I think it's just a very, oh my god, do not even get me started. It's just so many ways that you could do this. And that's only, again, if you don't have a dishwasher, which of course you have to rinse it first and all of that. So I do not know how practical this is. Maybe, again, the only way I could see this being practical is if you have, if you cooked for a lot of people, or you're washing a lot of dishes, as in for, I don't know, 10 people, 8 people, maybe even less. But again, it's just, I had a lot of people at home. I had dinner, I invited some people for dinner. Maybe, again, you have a big, the thing's going to get overfilled, right? So it's give me the wash up bowl. The washing up bowl, because I'm going to do the soapy thing, you're going to fill it with water. You're going to do the soap. And because, again, it's more a restaurant-like. I think in restaurants they do this, right? But it's probably because there's obviously a lot of plates, a lot of cutlery that they have to wash. And also, I think, the restaurants sort of sanitize it, right? I would expect for them to do that, right? So I don't know if it's just easier for them to do that with a washing up bowl. I don't know. I don't really see, to be honest, I don't really see how, if it's just 1 or 2 people, how are they, you're not going to use the washing up bowl for like a breakfast thing. Maybe if you're doing a big meal, and I don't know, you had several, you had to wash up, the pots, and you did several things. I don't know, maybe it just depends on what you cooked. I don't know, the more I think about this, the more I imagine scenarios. So I do not know. I mean, I get the practicality of this. I understand, but I don't know how practical the thing is, because it sounds great in theory, but in practice, I don't know. Aren't you just washing up more things? And also, what do I do with the washing up bowl afterwards? I have to wash the washing up bowl because otherwise it's going to get, obviously it's going to have pieces of food, and it's going to be maybe greasy, it's going to be inside the thing, it's going to be greasy. So ultimately you're also going to have to wash this. And again, maybe, the plates and stuff, I also she brought a really good point, which was, if you get something that's really dirty and the plates are dirty, and you put them in the water, and it's gonna be this gross water, and then you just, what am I gonna do with this? This is gross. I don't want to do this. I don't want to grab it. So I do not know. I just, wow, the more I think about this, the more I'm not coming around to the washing up bowl. I don't think I like the washing up bowl. Again, good for you if you like this. I don't think I'm gonna be using this in the future. I don't really want this. Maybe again, bring the washing up bowl, maybe if you're having a big dinner. But even then, I don't know. It's gonna be gross. It's gonna be super dirty. And again, why wouldn't you just use your sink, right? It's kind of, I thought, for me at least, it was, the washing up bowl is made for washing produce. You go and because you have to wash it, and ultimately sometimes, I think usually you put it in the rack, and some sinks even have this sort of built-in. Well, is it built up? Actually, I don't know if it's built in, or you kind of buy it, separate. But this is this sort of metal rack, and you put your produce there, and you can sort of fill it. And sometimes, again, depends on what you're having. Sometimes you want to fill it with water, and then you put some vinegar or whatever it is that you're washing it. Or sometimes of course, you're just gonna spray a little bit of whatever it is that you're spraying, and then you put water. I don't know. It just depends. But I thought, is a washing up bowl the same as a produce rack? As in, I'm washing my things in the sink. So I guess I don't know. I don't really like the washing up bowl. The radiator key makes me extremely scared. I don't know why, because you mentioned something, that's what obviously you would do, right? You would call your landlord and be, hey, this is happening there. No, you have to visit yourself. It's electricity, which I as a general rule, I wouldn't want to get around here because I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. Who do you call if you have problems with your radiator? Is it a plumber or is it an electrician? I don't know, but you need an expert because I think they can be dangerous. Those things can explode, right? Maybe I'm exaggerating, I don't know, but I'd be scared of this thing blowing up. So why am I supposed to deal with this? I'm quite scared about dealing with this on my own because I do not know anything about electricity, physics, whatever, all of that. So it makes me quite scared. Maybe it's more safe than I'm thinking, and maybe I should look up if there's been any accidents with radiators. You're trying to open up the radiator, you're using your radiator key, and if the thing, that has there been any accidents, I don't know. I'd be kind of quite scared about the prospect of me having to do this. I do not like that. And of course, the electric kettle. I like the concepts of the electric kettle. Like she mentioned, it's true. Once you probably get around and using a really good electric kettle. Now you're thinking, oh my god, we have to boil water like peasants in the 1600s. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to get one now. Yes, sure. Maybe not for boiling. She mentioned something crazy. The boiling water in order to make pasta. I mean, maybe they have a point, right? Maybe it's sort of don't knock it until you've tried it. But I think I'd be little, I don't know. It's the concept of like boiling water, and then I'm gonna put it in my giant bowl in the stove and make my pasta. Well, I mean, sure, probably. Again, speaking of practicality, probably it is quite practical. But I do not know how I feel about that. Because I don't know, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I do not know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know why I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. But warming up soup though, that's a step too far for me. I don't think I could boil soup there. I don't know, there's just something about putting the soup in a place in which you're supposed to be boiling water, but then I'm putting an actual food in here. It makes me a little, I don't know, I don't like that. But maybe you have two boiling, you have two kettles and then you use one for warming up things. Maybe again pasta, you're reheating pasta there, and the other you put a little water, you put your little pasta, and then you do that. But it's just the concept. I'm thinking about it and I can't. It's, oh my god, I just imagine the pasta in the electric kettle. I don't know, there's something about that image that is just very, I can't with this. But maybe again you have both, and then once specifically for boiling water, whether that's whatever it is that you're using boiling water, and the other is for warming up things. But maybe it's just a mind thing, I know, because it's quite silly of me, right? You use pots in your kitchen, and you boil water in them, and at the same time you also cook, pasta, you cook sauces in them. But it's just a concept of, I don't know, it's just a kettle. So I can't. And then you're pouring your pasta in your plate. I don't know. I can't imagine it. I don't like that. I don't like the image. I don't like it. But I want to get an electric kettle because, again, I think Now she's telling me, oh, in 90 seconds that the water's boiling. Oh my God, you don't have to wait 5 minutes for this to boil. Yes, absolutely. I'm absolutely there. I love the idea of electric kettles just boiling up faster. Although, great point. Apparently in the UK they have greater voltage, so that's why it's possible. So probably your electric kettle is not going to work like that because you don't have the necessary voltage in order for this to boil water or boil whatever it is that you need in such a short amount of time. But I don't know why. Shouldn't we all use that voltage? I like the idea of not waiting. I'm very impatient, so I don't know why the UK has better voltage systems. I do not know. Maybe I should look it up. Maybe it has to do with something with the electrical and the power grid. But shouldn't we be evolving? I don't know. Imitate the UK. I once asked things. But, maybe just thinking about it, maybe it's cheaper in the US. Electricity is cheaper in the US because it's not that much, it's not that powerful. Maybe in the UK it's a little bit more expensive because, you have better electricity, which I think sounds wild to say. You have better electricity. It's electricity. Nothing's better, but, it's the amount of power, which I think is obviously, the difference here. So I don't know. I'm gonna think about the electric kettle, but I know that it's not gonna be the same as in the UK because we really have to be thinking about the important things, which is, I don't know, telling our politicians that we have to use more voltage, and that's the UK, which I think is a perfect solution for a lot of everyday life problems. But that's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!